Hello, lifers, and welcome back into the living room for another episode of the podcast because life can be a niche. So glad to have you with us. You know how we always roll. If you are listening to us wherever you get your podcasts, thank you. We'd love to have you come over and watch on the YouTube channel. And for those of you who have been on the YouTube channel watching us, please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share it. Tell other people about it. Please get in the comments so that we know what you think about the content that we are discussing, and then we build off of that. So when you share your opinions or your thoughts on something, that helps me to think about that. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to talk about this because you said I should. We are definitely a community and definitely want to have you do that. But anyway, you guys know how to reach me on social media at Katie Bryant Writes, the blog, katiebryantwrites.com. It's all there, other stuff. I cook a lot. Whatever I'm thinking about is on the blog. But in here, in the living room, we talk about life. Shared before, I'm divorced mom of boys and doing this thing called life and getting through it one step, one moment at a time, and sharing everything that I'm learning or have learned along the way. But you guys know it's tea time. We always have our tea, and I am sharing with you for those who are watching. This is it's not a tea cup, but it's my cup, and I love it. This is my Because Life Can Be a Niche cup. The tea that I have is an oldie but goodie, just because it's cold here in Georgia. It's Earth Day, and it's actually cold on Earth Day. Like, we don't even want to be outside doing anything, but we're planning some stuff. But anyway, like this morning it was 38 degrees. So thank you, Mother Earth, for that. So anyway, it is freezing. So my tea of the episode is one of my favorites. It's Paris. It's just it's the lavender and the vanilla flavor. I don't even know how to describe it, but it is just one of the most soothing and relaxing teas that I have in my bin of teas. But if you guys have recommendations for some good loose leaf tea, send it to your girl. I'd love to have that and give it a try. You guys know if I find something, I'll order it, I'll try it, and I'll tell you about it. So anyway, moving on. Let's get to the topic at hand today. We have been kind of on a roll lately with this divorced mom talk and what I have learned and what I'm learning. But one topic that kind of came out of like a couple of comments on some posts that I shared, oh, you're such a great mom, or this, they'll post my boys are 13 and 11. Oh, you're a great mom, or you do this, and oh, you guys are awesome. I can't wait to see you guys. And it sparked in me like, well, what can I share that I've learned as a divorced mom of boys specifically? So I'm talking to you guys, especially you mamas who are raising boys, because it is, I mean, everybody's like, oh, you're doing great. I don't always feel like I'm doing great. And because I still feel like young men need a constant male around. And all transparency, my father passed away in 2018. I've shared that before. It was end of 2018. I got divorced in 2015. So I really didn't think my father would be gone so soon. But he battled cancer, and I really thought he would be around a lot longer. But he is no longer here with us. And even before my divorce, he was a force in my son's lives. Like, he gave advice, he gave wisdom. They had private discussions. To this day, little nuggets come out from those discussions that I didn't even know were happening. And I'm like, where you get that from? Oh, when Granddad and I used to talk in the mornings before I go to school. And I miss him so much because I took for granted that I would have him around and he would be my steady male source, the go-to all the time. And I think that's something that those of us who are divorced, when you are going through when you're going through divorce, two things you're thinking about. One, how do I keep life as normal as possible? How do I keep things consistent? And then if you are raising the opposite sex, how do I make sure they're still getting that male interaction and the male nurturing that is completely different from mama nurturing? And with getting divorced in 2015, my youngest was 5, my oldest was 6.5, and they're still at that little cutesy little boy stage. Cheeks are still chubby, and you can still be the full-on nurturer because they are just wee bitties. But as they grow older, that has been the biggest concern. Is, okay, as these cute little chubby faces become chiseled and muscles form and shoulders get broad and start getting broad. Right now I'm looking at little thin peach fuzz hair over their little lips and hair under their arms, and just all kinds of voices starting to crack. So all kinds of things are happening, as they should, as your child develops. And I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, I have men. They are developing young men, and daddy's isn't here. And I think that is where, those of us who had a male companion in the home, and now you don't, and you're the custodial parent, so you have them most of the time. I feel like that is the gap that worries me the most, is that portion that's missing. Their father is alive and well and probably 10 minutes away from where we live, but he sees them officially every other weekend. And but it's at this point right now where everyday things are happening. They're not going to save those questions about their puberty or their sexuality or what's happening with their bodies. They're not going to remember, oh, in 2 weeks I'll see my dad, I'll ask him that. They just ask whoever is in charge at that point in time, which, if you're the custodial parent, 9 times out of 10 they're asking you. And so without my father here as that constant, I had to get into the mode of still being a mom and being a nurturer, but accepting that at this point in my life, because I'm divorced, I have to tone down a little bit of that mama bear nurturer and pump up, tap into the knowledge and the masculinity side as much as I can possibly do that, so that there is some semblance of, okay, well, when the next time he asks me about this, or the next time we have a discussion about this body part, you have to adjust as a single mom, for sure, as a divorced mom, absolutely, because the kids are used to that male constant in the home. And then with my father getting sick and battling cancer for years and being here to go to the doctor for chemo and stuff, he was constant. So they didn't miss a beat in that male reinforcement. And, with the state of our world right now, and what we're seeing in that's happening in society and with black and brown people, especially young men, it it definitely leaves a little bit of I feel like, okay, I'm not there's something missing, that I'm teaching them all the right things. I'm teaching them what my father taught me, but there is this conversation that men have, or there's this knowing that men have, that you can't really emulate that. You can try. I try. Um but I'm definitely feeling like, okay, that's the secret sauce. I don't I don't quite have that. And so I try to make sure that I compensate for not having the secret sauce by pulling back some of the mama bear. If I had, if I were still married, then you're yin and yang. You can be more mama bear, more nurturer, because you have your male partner there in the home that is giving that balance of male, female, head of household. I'm the nurturer. Hey, I'm here. The home is peaceful. Is happy. We're eating. These are the things that I loved about my role as a parent. But when you are now dual roles, things change a little bit. And so that's why I wanted to come on and talk to just some of the comments that, I'm getting. I'm like, well, let me just go on and be transparent. It's not easy, for sure, not having that constant there. And, I'm an only child. So I don't have a brother. My family, my guy cousins are not, they don't live near me, so it's not like, they're over here all the time. And then, last year when everything got shut down, I haven't seen my girlfriends, let alone my guy friends. So there has been like uh no feeling of in the gap there. And so you have to improvise and figure out how to balance that. Not so much when they're little. When they were, like I said, when they were little, and 5 and 6 and 7, you talk to them and you teach them, but it's still, very much mama bear. But as they get older, as we're getting to the age where we may be driving or soon, and we may be, doing things that require more responsibility, or we're having talks about sexuality, or talks about what's happening with your body. When a child tells me, you know, I'm uncomfortable now and I feel funny. Oh, oh, okay. I'm looking it up to see. Or, hey, well, you can say call your dad, but who does that? I mean, life is happening constantly around here, and conversations are spontaneous. Or you're riding in the car going on the way to school, and you get the questions or the comments about body parts, and you're just like, okay, I don't have one of those. I have no idea what you're talking about. But let me try to, let's have an intelligent conversation. Let's talk through this. So, it requires us, I think, as moms, to get out of the comfort zone and let our role go a little bit. So what I've learned from it is, as much as I love being a mama bear and being the nurturer and the one who, does the loving on you, and the come on, let's, hey, let me give you a hug, or oh, I'm still loving my hugs from them. I know that because I'm now divorced, I have to step up my game a little bit, pull back my nurturer just a little bit. I'm not going to turn it off. No mom really turns off the nurturing side. I mean, it's always there. If that's who you are, if that's how you started off, then it's there. But just, serious conversations that my father had with me, because my dad really never treated me like, okay, this is the lecture, for girls. He was like, this is the lecture for you being a black person in America. You know, keep your hands on the steering wheel. When somebody's trying to pull you over, the police are trying to pull you over, go to a well light area, get to a nearest gas station, get somewhere public where people can see you. And I'm 47, I'll be 48 in June. This was the conversation for me when I was 13, 14 years old. So this is that, you're talking about 80s. So nothing has really changed. Those things you can still instill in your children, and you talk to them about everything. But there's also this knowing of just being a man and stepping into manhood that, hearing it from another man is different. As a woman, I can look the officer in the eye and say, well, here's my license and registration. And the way I say it in a certain tone, but you have to talk to young men about, okay, well, your voice is deeper. So naturally, don't project like I teach you to project in class, or when you're talking to your friends, I teach you to project so that people can really hear you, because I don't want you to be perceived as threatening. But I think hearing it from a guy definitely changes it a little bit, because I'm talking about tone and inflection from the feminine place, but from a masculine place, things are different. There are certain nuances. So that's where I am at this stage in my life, in the whole divorced mom thing and the divorced mom place, and the things that I've done to try to compensate for that. And not only am I toning down the mama bear nurturer that I love being, admittedly love being, I like being a mama. I love being a mama. And so what I'm doing is making sure that we are involved in activities with young men, sports, and organizations that teach, leadership skills, life skills, manhood things that are going to equip you for life, the world, your community, driving, whatever it is, existing, trying to survive in the world that we're in, and still have your dignity, your self-respect, and let it be known, who you are and how you are walking into that. And so, but a year has gone by and we're not playing sports, we're not in clubs, we're not doing any of the extracurricular activities that served as a support for that. So to compensate for that, of course, we talk about, roles and responsibility and history. And I recall the things that my dad has shared. And then sometimes they'll even tell me things that dad told them that I didn't even know about. Like, granddad talked about that. Granddad told us how it was when he was growing up, but how, a real man shakes your hand with a firm grip, and a real man does blah, blah, blah. And I know we're in a world now where we try not to put gender behavior on things, like, oh, and I get that. I totally get that. And I am teaching them to respect other people, respect their choices, respect how they identify, respect all of those things. But at the same time, I'm also instilling the value system that their father and I established when we entered a covenant together, and the value system that was passed down to us from his parents to him, from my parents to me. We have a value system that acknowledges that, hey, you're the head of household, you're the man, this is how you're raised to be. You can do it together, you can sit down at the table, y'all can decide whatever you want to do, but when the bottom line comes, you are the head. And so our values come into play there too. And that's something that you can kind of rely on, because those things are constant in both households. And just make sure that you just keep in front of them, just build on the value systems that have already been established and build on what they're learning, and navigate through that, even even in society today, where there's so many different ways of living and choices and lifestyle choices. You still have to instill in them what your values are, and at the same time letting them know, and you see, still you got to make the choice for yourself. You still have to choose, what path you want to follow. We can teach you what we believe, what we know, and then but you have to take all that information and your knowing as a man, and make your own way. And that's something that, as a mom of boys especially, that's something where you just have to drop it off and leave it. That is what I'm getting out of it. I just drop it in their lap and I leave it there, and rely on that part, and then have a partnership with your spouse if you're divorced, or with the other parent or your partner. There should be a partnership so that we're clear on what we're saying about these issues and areas. Because when you're in the household together, yeah, you can check in and say, hey, I just got hit with this question on the drive home. This is what I said. And so you have that check-in and that constant relationship going, so that you can speak consistently, clearly, and not cause confusion. Of course, the ability to cause confusion increases when one person is no longer in the home, and it's on you the majority of the time. So I have to remember that, like, that's in my little notes, like, okay, as a divorced mom, I got to remember to tell dad that this came up or this happened, and this, because it's so easy to just get caught living, and we just go about our day doing our thing. And if I don't write it down, or if I don't text him right then, it may slip my mind. And so I would say, to shore up that gap there of not having that constant check-in, so that you're on the same page, or making sure you're close to the same page, or let's talk about this so we can get on the same page. It is a constant communication deal, where I will call or I will text and say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what went down with this. So you may hear about it, kind of thing, so that we are in lockstep as much as we can be, running two different households in different places, as much as possible. That is important. I have seen that it really helps, because they will come back to me and say, daddy said the same thing, or dad, we were talking to dad about this, and dad said the same thing granddad said. And I'm like, okay, mission accomplished. Great. That's what we want. We want that constant communication going, so that we can provide a system of parenting that works, even if we're not in the same household. And especially now that you're becoming young men, and the conversations and the questions are getting more and more intense on the manhood side, real intense. So that is something I've walked away with, and I'm like, oh, so glad I sent that text. I'm so glad I checked in, or I don't ever not answer a question. I don't ever shy away from being a parent. That's going to happen. I think if we were still married, I would probably still get the same questions, because I'm with them more of the time. So, and they come up at random times. We're literally riding down the street, and they will ask me something, and I'm like, why couldn't you have waited until 7 o'clock on Friday when your daddy picked you up to ask that question. But it happens, and you still have to parent. You still have to, parent through the gender difference. Okay, I haven't experienced that. Okay, well, let's talk about it and keep the communication open. So that's one there. And I'll say the last thing is, like I said, uncles, cousins, brothers, great to have as reinforcement. And if you don't have that and you are at a stage where you're dating, depending on how serious you are with that person, obviously, if they're dating you, they know you have children. And it has been nice to have the advice or the outside respecting boundaries of, okay, I know these kiddos have a father, but I'm noticing this, or I see this. That is nice to have, and it's something where, as a mom, we tend to sometimes we tense up when somebody outside of the bloodline, shoot, not even outside the bloodline, we tense up when somebody outside the house uh, gives advice or comments on something you should possibly or probably be doing with your child, but I say, be open to those nuggets and that advice, because 9 times out of 10, and that's with your male friends, your significant others, or the person you're dating of the opposite sex, when they see something, just be open to hear it. It doesn't mean you have to do it. They're not telling you how to raise your child, because there are boundaries and respect there. You're not telling them how to raise their children, but it is absolutely 100% wonderful when you can have the type of relationship where you receive advice and then they tell you something. I just remember just the other day, I was talking to my friend, and I was saying, yeah, I just want to teach them to, make sure they can handle themselves and handle a house. I don't want any wife, any woman, mad at me because I have raised some men, these young men, and like, your mama didn't do nothing. You don't do nothing. You don't do nothing. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to put them out in the world as raggedy men. And he said, yeah, because they can be cutting grass and they can be trimming hedges. And I was like, whoa, whoa, slow your roll. Cutting. And I realized at that moment, that's the mama bear. Because, and even if I were still married, I think if their father said, oh yeah, we're going to start cutting grass, the mama bear would be like, they have the attention span of gnat hair. You really going to give them something with a blade? You're going to give them something with gasoline and let them do that? And so I have not, and I have a leaf blower and trimmers and hedgers and all kinds of dangerous things and equipment around here, but I have not felt like they were mature enough to handle that type of machinery. Because I'm like, I can just see them now just getting distracted, looking at the bird, and then, cutting something or cutting themselves or cutting each other. But that's mama. That is mama bear. That is nurturer behavior. A man sees, oh, they're ready. Oh yeah, they can handle it. And that's the balance that you want, that you need. And I listened and I was like, you're right. They can handle it. Yeah, okay. Because I have been holding off on certain things because I'm protective. Where, I mean, they're 13 and 11. I don't know about the lawnmower situation. I'm still teetering on that. But the trimming and the hedging, we can start with that. And I was like, okay, my dad would be saying that because my dad was a yard man. That man loved his lawn. And he had my children riding the lawnmower with him when they were like 3 years old and 4 years old. They would sit, in front of him, and they would just be riding down a thing. I was like, this is exact advice my dad would be doing, or my dad, if he was strong enough, would be teaching them how to do these things. So it is nice to have an open ear and an open mind to hear that, advice from people on the outside, or people who have been aunts of young men and or godparents of young men and seen them grow up, and that they have something to share, like, have you thought about, letting them start practicing driving? Or have you thought about this? Just being open to people, the village. I think that's so much where we have, that's as black people, I think that is part of where, and this is a whole nother podcast, really, to be honest. And we may even go there. Let's put a pin there. But I would just say this: as black people, we used to be such a village community. The village stepped in. The village raised you. You got out of line. The village stepped in, told your mama, may have even punished you right there on the spot, and then told your mom and your daddy, and you might get it again. But we've become so siloed in, nobody gonna tell me how to do this. I got this. I'm gonna throw myself at the mercy of the court. Tell me, advise me. And I think that especially as mamas, single moms out here in society, let the village help. Let the village come in. And like I said, the sports, the organizations, that's part of the village. But then, getting them connected with, cousins and uncles, and just getting them connected into the source with other guys. And then if you are seeing someone, listening, being open to what your significant other is saying. Obviously you trust them enough to date them, so surely you trust their advice enough, I hope, to that they're saying something of value. So that is something we can talk about. That is the village, because we have really shied away from being the village for others and allowing the village to come to us. We just let stuff just go on willy-nilly, and we don't say anything because we want to say it's not our business and all this, that, and the third. And to our detriment. And I think definitely to our detriment. But that's another podcast. There. I'm talking about mama bear, mama boys, raising these young men for this cruel world with dignity and pride and knowledge and a knowing of just when you walk in the room, you're a king. You are a king. And doing that, even if there is not a male in the home, or not a male constantly around, making sure that we can still provide that support system and that knowledge and that village and community for them is valuable, and is something that I don't take lightly. And I am grateful for those who have stepped in. I'm grateful for the advice, and I am constantly looking for ways to continue to feed my children, that feed them emotionally, and make sure that they are good and that they have that. So that's a mouthful, y'all. I didn't even plan on even talking this long about it, but after I saw those comments about, oh, you're just a great mom, you do it all, blah, 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 you're just here and you're there, I'm like, no. Kind of feel like I could use my daddy right now. I'm missing him terribly, but I am, using the resources that I have available to me now, so that they are whole and they get the whole lot of it, and not just a mama bear. The mama bear. Whew. And you don't ever stop. You never stop being a mama bear. I've seen moms of boys, and these boys have become men who have children of their own, and they still some mean mama bears out there in these streets. But I know why, because they love what they do. And I just, that's it. That's my advice to moms of boys, divorced mom, single mom, whatever the case may be. Raising young men definitely requires a village. But you tell me what you think. Get in the comments. Tell me, what you've done. Have you found something different to work, something better, or something that you think will supplement what I'm doing? I'd love to hear it. We are open in this community. We have conversations in this living room, and that's how we roll. So, y'all, thank you guys again for riding, for rolling, for being down with us. You know what to do. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. And I will say this with as much love as I possibly can. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I will see you in the living room, baby, where it goes down. Mama bears and all. When I see you.